The North Texas Tollway Authority operates a network of 5 toll roads, 2 toll bridges, and a single tunnel. Separate from state funding, the toll roads themselves still provide an integral role in traffic management within the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Know what's going on, everyone? My name is Cool Titanium 68, and in today's Automotive Wednesday video, we're going to take a look at the Chisholm Trail Parkway, a highway that probably should have been built decades ago. Now, the original proposal for a freeway extending southwest from downtown Fort Worth were drawn up as early as the 1960 City of Fort Worth Thoroughfare Plan. About 2 years later, Fort Worth formally asked the Texas DOT to begin planning said freeway. A transportation study commenced in 1964 to reaffirm the need for what was then named the Southwest Freeway, and the Texas DOT recommended it be given a high priority. Since its inception, the Southwest Freeway was planned to begin at I-35 West on the northeast side of downtown, forming the north and west sides of a downtown freeway loop and then connecting south to Interstate 30. Now, what this would have happened is it would have branched off of what was today State Highway 121 and would have basically ridden the north and west sections of Fort Worth. Where exactly would have gone was a little bit controversial. There was a plan to basically build an entire beltway around Fort Worth, basically following what was today Weatherford, Henderson, and then building one south here. The plan was called the Gruden Plan, and it would have pretty much basically rebuilt downtown Fort Worth. Almost 90% of the structures would have been redone, or at least demolished to do this, and there would have been parking garages all on the outer loops. Kind of basically making downtown Fort Worth like a little bit of a, how do I want to say it? It's like a mall of some sort. But that never happened because it seems kind of weird and honestly a little bit dumb to do something like that. Now, the loop around Fort Worth alone was given a high priority. However, it would have been very expensive and has led to many controversies, as you can kind of see. I mean, what you're basically saying is, let's build a highway through what is today Weatherford Street, kind of going up to Panther Island, and then either following Forest Park Boulevard as a full-fledged highway, or coming on the west side of the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens. Which if they did that, and then made the Chisholm Trail down here, that's a lot of old buildings here. And you're talking about basically redoing a lot of the roads here. So you can kind of see why. The highway was included in the comprehensive 1967 Region Transportation Plan and remained in the plan for all updates in the following decades while the project was unable to move forward to construction. In 1969, the DOT authorized a route study to determine the feasibility of the Southwest Freeway. Hearings and studies continued well into the 70s, and the Texas Transport Commission approved alignment in 1974. Now, however, in the 1970s in general was a bad time to launch new freeway projects. The DOT's financial position was declining rapidly as both rampant inflation escalated construction costs while revenue from the state gas tax was stagnant. By 75, the DOT had descended into financial crisis, while drastically reducing funding for new construction and virtually no chance for all new projects like the Southwest Freeway to receive funding. At this point, it was up to local officials to save the freeway from cancellation. Now, in 1978, Fort Worth asked the Texas DOT to revive the project, and they proceeded to prepare new estimates on the cost of right-of-way. The City Council continued its effort to preserve right-of-way into 1983 and 84 by directing city staff to work with land developers south of I-20 to keep a corridor clear for the freeway. The biggest challenge would be the downtown section from I-35 west north of downtown to I-30 southwest of downtown. The planned alignment would impact the cultural district as well as the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens. Now, in 1984, Fort Worth City Council contracted with a consultant to develop a new alignment for the downtown section to minimize impacts. The Southwest Freeway south of I-30 was not embroiled in controversy, but since it was part of the overall project, it remained on hold as officials tried to solve the problem of the downtown section. By 92, the entire Southwest Freeway was again at risk of cancellation as the costs and impacts of the downtown section lowered the DOT's priority of the project. In 94, the project gained new life when it was designated as part of the National Highway System, making new planning funding available. That same year, the Central Texas Council of Governments first proposed turning the project into a toll road, and with that, the project was renamed to Southwest Parkway since it was no longer expected to be a freeway. On December 8, 1999, the project reached a critical point where the City Council voted on its future. With a crowd of about 300 filling City Council chamber members for the vote, on the controversial project, they stripped the downtown section of the project, effectively killing the downtown Fort Worth freeway loop, and then voted 7-2 to endorse the Southwest Parkway south of I-30. Later that month, the NTTA voted to proceed with detailed financial and engineering studies. Now, Section 1 of that project, basically an 8.2 mile stretch from I-30 to present-day Alta Mesa Boulevard. This is basically where Phase 1 ended. So it would go through most of what's now built out for Fort Worth. So we start off here, go over the Davidson Yard, come south to the shopping area that is I-20, 183, and I believe in Chisholm Trail, and then end at Alta Mesa. It's an 8.2 mile stretch of I-30 to Alta Mesa Boulevard, which is about 3 miles south of I-20, was estimated at a cost of $180 million. Now, the second phase would extend all the way down to Farm to Market 1187, which today is Crowley Plover Road. So this would have been the second section, which from Alta Mesa to here would have costed an extra $60 million for a total of about $240 for the whole project. In 2000, the NTTA and the DOT signed a formal agreement for funding that project. It had strong political support and some momentum, but there was a long struggle ahead before construction could begin. In 1999, the Southwest Parkway Citizens Advisory Committee was formed to act as a liaison between nearby neighborhoods and planning authorities. That committee unveiled its preferred design in October 1999, emphasizing visually pleasing designs, landscaping, and minimal impact by keeping the freeway at or below ground level. Opposition from nearby neighborhoods lingered, however, and in 1999, authorities brought in 7 nationally known planning experts to review the design and make recommendations to minimize the impact on the inner city. Again, ongoing vocal opposition and an increase to $275 million in 2002 combined to make the future of the project uncertain. In 2003, the draft environmental impact statement for the project was released. Its conclusion that the project would have no significant impact prompted further criticism from the project opponents and the concern of political leaders, including Congresswoman Kay Granger and Fort Worth Mayor Mike Moncrief. Both figures, among others, urged more study and additional public input. And by the end of 2004, the City Council was satisfied with the environmental documents, and in December, they voted unanimously to endorse the final environmental impact statement. By 2005, environmental concerns had been addressed and public opposition was no longer a threat. But now a new problem arose. The cost of Section 1, which had previously been revised to cost upwards of $325 million, was now estimated at $825 million. Project backers scrambled to explain the massive cost and increase and maintain political support. The original cost estimate was for constructing only a 4-lane toll road, and now the new estimate was for a 6-lane toll road and included all other associated costs of utility location, right-of-way, engineering, project management, toll collection, landscaping, as well as a contingency fund. The increased cost was primarily the responsible of the NTTA, which initially stood firm in its commitment to build the project after the cost increase was disclosed. However, by 2005, the NTTA board was considering withdrawing from the 2000 financial agreements so it could focus its resources on other projects which were more financially attractive, particularly the George Bush Turnpike in Dallas County. When the NTTA agreed to maintain its role in the project, a new dispute erupted over the toll rate for the Southwest Parkway, with Dallas County interests urging higher toll rates to offset the higher project costs. In November 2005, it was first reported that the NTTA was considering building the entire parkway, both the original 8-mile Phase 1, as well as basically building the entire south section from Alta Mesa, which was an additional 20 miles to Cleburne. In February 2006, the NTTA once again firmly committed to the Southwest Parkway and stated that construction would begin in 2008. Now, these cost increases were also straining the city of Fort Worth, which were responsible for utility locations, right-of-way acquisition, and the cost of architectural enhancements. In 2003, Fort Worth's share of the cost was about $95 million, and after spending about $30 million, officials were already looking for ways to reduce the cost of the remaining $65 million. However, with the massive cost increase of 2005 and additional unexpected expenses, the price tag for Fort Worth would only go up from there. At that time, the architectural landscaping enhancements cost escalated to $60 million from the original $8 to $16 million, and in July 2007, it was reported that the cost for Section 1 had risen to a combined $944 million, with Fort Worth's share ballooning to $144 million. Now in 2007, just before the construction was looking to start, a new crisis had developed. The tollway's path took it over what is today the Union Pacific Davidson rail yard, just south of Fort Worth. And that is this big rail yard here. This is Union Pacific's Davidson rail yard. Before they were able to even start construction, they had to get permission from Union Pacific before anything could begin. Now, Union Pacific wanted to ensure that there be no disruption to operations, which at the time sorted rail cars for 12 incoming and outgoing trains per day, respectively. Preventing any sort of track disruption would require construction of new tracks and reconfiguration of the track incline, which would allow rail cars to coast through the yard. It was potentially very expensive and could cost up to $150 million to do. Negotiations continued through 2008 to find an affordable solution, which wouldn't hamper the rail yard's operations and wouldn't bust the already stretched budget. A preliminary agreement was reached in January 2009, with final approval by Fort Worth in September of that same year. The $95 million cost for the rail yard pushed the estimate of Section 1 to $1.2 billion and the full length of the toll road to Cleburne to $2 billion. Now, the last remaining challenge in this project was finding the money to build the project. By 2008, efforts focused on building the entire 28-mile project from Fort Worth to Cleburne rather than just phase 1 down to Alta Mesa. As of November 2009, only about $1 billion in funding was available for the whole $2 billion project. Reducing the southern 13 miles basically from what was then supposed to be phase 2 ending at 1107 down to Cleburne, reducing that 13 miles of the tollway to 2 lanes, and then delaying the construction of some connecting ramps at the I-20 interchange provided some savings, as well as the $144 million from the 2009 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act covered some more expenses. In early 2010, the Texas DOT and the NTTA entered into a complicated financial agreement where the Southwest Parkway was combined into a single financial entity with the Grand Prairie section of the Bush Turnpike, State Highway 161. The DOT agreed to use its gas tax revenue to back the bonds issued for the combined entity, lowering interest rates and allowing an additional $400 million to be borrowed, closing that funding gap. The NTTA gave the final approval in August of 2010 for the project, which gave a final price tag of $1.62 billion. Construction of the highway took about 5 years to build. Some portion of State Highway 121 construction started in 2009, again with most of the major contracts awarded between 2010 and 2011. Unlike the other toll roads we've discussed, this highway was built at the same time and opened all together. Again, the northern third of the highway from I-30 to Sycamore School Road was built as a 6-lane highway. South of that exit, it became a 4-lane tollway until Farming Market 1187, where it became a 2-lane tollway to Cleburne. The new tollway opened on May 11th, 2014. Now, the day before opening, the city of Fort Worth had a dedication ceremony where they would host the Chisholm Trail Parkway Run and Ride, the largest ever freeway opening celebration at the time. Not all construction was complete, though, as by October of that same year, they were still working on the northern terminus at I-30, but by July of that next year, that northern terminus at I-30 was complete. However, one weird quirk about this highway came up with its opening, and that was the speed limit of 50. Now, through Section 1, most of the speed limit was not 65 or 70 miles an hour like what most of our highways are today. From I-30 to Arbelon Lane, the speed limit was actually 50 when it opened, and then it was 60 south of Arbelon to Alta Mesa, and then would become 65 through the rest of the corridor down to Cleburne. The reason for the unusually low speed limit was to limit passing traffic noise levels as it passed through or near older neighborhoods. A little over 2 years after the opening celebration, the speed limits north of Arbelon I-30 was increased to 60, with the speed limit south of Arbelon increasing to 65. Now, as y'all can see, this was a pretty controversial highway project. Even though what was built today was not controversial, it was the fact that when they were trying to build the loop around Fort Worth as pretty much like connecting that with State Highway 120 with what is present-day State Highway 121 ending at 35 West, that's what kept the whole thing from happening because it was all a combined package. Honestly, I'm probably going to make an entire video just talking about that loop because unlike Dallas, which does have a loop around its entire town, Fort Worth doesn't. With that, I think this is probably one of the last remaining toll roads in DFW, and I say one of because there's one more that we're going to talk about next week, going over the 360 tollway and also just the entirety of State Highway 360 itself. But with that, we're going to end the video here. Again, thank you guys so much for watching today's video over the Chisholm Trail Parkway. If you guys like what you just watched, leave a like and subscribe down below. If you don't want to miss any future videos, whether it's more automotive videos like this or any of our other aviation and mountain bike videos, hit that bell icon so you're notified when these videos drop at 8 a.m. on their respective days. Hope you all have a great day and a great rest of your week. Peace.